All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Real Live Talk. I am extremely pumped that you're here to check out today's conversation. I have an amazing guest with me today. My guest is Chad Johnson. Just in case you're unfamiliar with who Chad is, I'll share a little bit about who Chad is in just a second. But I do want to say thank you to everybody for taking the time to check out this episode, check out this conversation. If you're interested in past episodes or anything like that, you can find them at redcircle.com/shows/real live talk. Also available on all of the podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple, Google, etc. If the content blesses you, challenges you, makes you think in any kind of way, or angers you, or anything like that, that's fine too. I'd love to hear from you. If you consider subscribing, sharing, leaving a review, anything like that would be super appreciated. So thank you guys in advance. Let me tell you about my guest today. Chad Johnson is a man who has had tremendous impact on the underground music scene, in particular, the Christian heavy music scene. In the late 90s and early 2000s, he operated the record label Takehold Records, where he signed many influential bands that you've probably heard of, like Underoath, Further Seems Forever, 238, so many others. His label was acquired by Tooth and Nail back in 2002. And Chad stayed on as their A&R director for a number of years, where he would go on to recruit other bands like mewithoutYou, Beloved, Anberlin, and the list just goes on and on. He's the creator behind Furnace Fest, which is a legendary music festival from the early 2000s that's just been recently revived. Additionally, he's the founder of Come and Live, which is a nonprofit organization that partners with musicians and artists to basically foster community, provide guidance and accountability, and really all with the aim of proclaiming and exalting the name of Jesus, proclaiming the good news of Jesus Christ. He's done extensive missionary work as well in some of the most impoverished places on the planet. And I could literally keep going, but I'm going to stop. Chad's such a great dude with a tremendous gift for seeing gold in people and just creating community out of nothing. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my new friend, Chad
What's
Johnson, up
up,
on the
Duke?
screen. Brother,
It's
I
nice to be here.
appreciate you. It's such a tremendous honor
Same,
to have you with me today, man.
same, dude. I'm excited to be here. Thanks. We were talking. You were bringing up the little boss pass behind me, and this
Yeah.
thing, the Shiba Inu dog from the meme coin that was meant to make us all millions. That unfortunately right now
Right?
is just sleeping. It's funny. My best story from Furnace Fest related to this specific boss pass is the first day, Friday morning. I was supposed to go take some people to get like 15 passenger vans, like transport vans, so we could get people to and from the airport and just cover a bunch of stuff. Runner vans, that's the fancy festival title for
Yeah.
them. And I left the festival grounds and there was a long line. That's the first time I realized how long the line was for people getting into the festival. And
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't believe how many people were lined up. It's like, this is insane. Like, if people could have only
Crazy.
seen, the original. And right then I saw a friend of mine kind of like pulling the opposite. I was pulling out, he was pulling the opposite way, and I just started I like laid on my Honda CRV horn, which is more like a little like, it sounds like it's like the least offensive honk you could ever produce for somebody, but it's a very politically correct horn, and so it just is like a little like beep beep. But I was like, like just going crazy with it, and my friend like waved and he went on, and then I like kept going, and right then the police officer that was sitting in his cop car at the front, which I hadn't even really noticed, nor did I think I was guilty of any wrongdoing, but right then he like spun his vehicle around, threw his lights on, came right after me, pulled in right behind me, and I was like, and the people with me were like, "I think there's a cop pulling you over." And I was like, "What? Why? This is crazy." And so he like jumped out of his car. I like rolled down the windows and he was like, "What do you think you're doing?" And I was like, "Sir, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it." He's, "I need you to step out of the vehicle right now." And that's when I just was like, I hate doing this because I really want to consistently maintain a humble perspective and keep
Mhm.
going on the low road, but I just pulled out the boss pass, and I just because I knew that all of our security team saw this, and I
Yeah.
just put it out. I was like, "Here you go." I just showed it to him, and he was like, "Oh." And I felt a combination of, like, such overwhelming power with such, like, creepy probably shouldn't have just pulled the boss pass on him. But then I started talking and I said, "Man, I'm so sorry. That was of my friend. I haven't seen him in a long time." And I said, "You know, you're totally right. I shouldn't have done that. And I was really disrespectful." And he's like, "Man," I guess I'm just having it's like first morning of the festival, so I got the like nervous jitters. And right then somebody at the front of the line looked over and they were like, that's Chad Johnson from Furnace Fest." And the whole crowd, I mean, they're already looking anyway because it's like, what's going on? And I was like,
Yeah,
sorry.
man.
But anyway, thankfully, Shiba Inu saved the day for me on the
Yeah,
first day of
bro.
Furnace Fest.
Yeah, everybody was amped up that day for sure. That line was
Were you
out
there?
of
Did you see
control. It
that?
was
Did you
so
see that happen?
I didn't see that happen.
That would have been great had you.
I didn't see that happen per se,
Okay.
but, yeah, the first day when we rolled up, when I got in line, the first bands were already going. Like, I don't think I was
Yep.
there for the morning. I think I got there around noon or something like that,
Okay.
so it was
It
already
was
kinda rocking,
yeah,
but
yeah,
man,
good
that
call. Good call
line
on your
was
part.
that line was still nuts. It was down around the corner, like across the train tracks and around it was nuts.
I heard people were like just going underneath the train because at one point the train had stopped on the tracks or was just moving very, very slowly. And I
Mm,
was like, man, I always knew Furnace
hate to
Fest
do that.
people were kind of sketchy, but that's like even more sketchy than me showing off the boss pass to get out of get out of jail. But it turned out so well, and it just worked
Yeah,
shockingly well.
and like that setting, the setting of Furnace Fest is like the greatest backdrop to like a hardcore show,
Yeah,
heavy music festival.
it's
It's
true.
it's
It
just
is.
the best thing ever. It's so rugged. For a little while, like during the festival, at one point they said to stop, but like in the plug your holes stage, like everybody chilling up on the wall, and there was like a
Yeah.
crane, like a cherry picker kind of thing back there, and
Yeah.
everyone just like
Yeah,
up on
yeah.
top of the thing, and it was just like just the greatest backdrop
Yeah,
ever.
agreed.
Like, the pictures are so cool and everything, and, I did wanna say, man, and since we're talking about it, I know
Sure.
you've heard this probably hundreds and hundreds of times, but I do just wanna say, like, legitimately from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank
Mm,
you and your business partners, those that partnered with you on this thing to bring Furnace Fest back to life, revive this thing after all these years. It happened at such a, I think, important time, being last year and coming out of the pandemic and just all of the
yeah.
fog of being on lockdowns and all this kind of stuff, the crazy nostalgia of the music of the bands themselves and everything kind of just culminating together made it such a special experience in so many ways. And the fact that you guys pulled it off, just seriously, thank you so much. And it was just such an incredible experience that you guys created the opportunity for.
Well, dude, thanks. I appreciate you saying that, and I feel like the privilege and the pleasure was 100% mine because I was as much a giddy school kid as anybody in attendance. I feel like
Yeah.
that's and hopefully that translates. I think all of us, not I think I know that each of us, whether we're the organizers officially or friends who were volunteering or people who we had hired to run production or the
Mm,
donuts that we had delivered that we had bartered a trade with Hero Donuts, which if you're ever in Birmingham and you don't stop at Hero Donuts, I don't know what else to tell you, like there's no other life
you need to
advice,
get saved
that
or you need or
yeah, yeah,
something.
it's like Jesus and Furnace Fest and Hero Donuts. But
Yeah.
I think it was just so cool to be able to focus on the little things, and to me, it's like where I found so much joy was like, for example, the baseball cards, which were just a random idea on the
Hmm.
fly that I hadn't really thought through what kind of like how long they would take, how much work they would take, but they were so much fun just to like just walk around and pass people a little. And someone's like, "What is this?" Like, "Whoa, this is a Bane baseball card?" Like, and the
Yeah.
fact that it's like, yeah, and Bane approved that baseball card. Strong Arm approved that. It wasn't us being shady. It was like these are these little kind of like relics of a bygone age are were birthed out of relationship from years ago, and I feel like that it's just representative of what we were able to all experience and carry over, which was the relationship aspect of what this meant. And I think if anything, it's what why the Furnace Fest Facebook community group has been so special and so I mean, I don't know, I'm not very clued in on pretty much anything music. So maybe every festival has this kind of community group behind it, but I would guess they don't. And I would guess that I don't think I'm wrong in sort of making drawing the conclusion that this is truly remarkable. And
Yeah.
that's yeah, man. From what every conversation, every experience, every person, every artist, I just came away feeling like, dude, this is a truly, outstanding collective of humans gathering together in a super unlikely, place, but
Yeah.
it was I loved it, and I'm excited. I'm nervous, I'm a little nervous, but I'm mostly excited about, the opportunity to work on this again.
Yeah, well, it's very well said, and I think that, for me, I've never been in a place before surrounded by that many people where you still kind of felt connected to everybody, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like,
Yeah.
to be surrounded by so many people just in the thing in general, and I don't know how many people were there over the course of all 3 days, but I know there were 10,000 plus per day, something like
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And just kind of being in the midst of all that, I remember some very specific moments, but, being in, for example, just like, uh, for someone, okay, so I'm 35 years old, and I hadn't gone crazy in a mosh pit in years.
So who was the
And
first so let me ask you this.
yeah,
Did you come to Furnace Fest, like, already premeditating your mosh pit grandeur? Or, like, were you daydreaming about moshing? Or did what was it not until you showed up and that first band played that you were like, "Okay, I'm in, let's go."
it was very up in the air because for me going, I didn't know what was gonna happen, and
Right.
sort of in my mind, I was thinking that I was gonna, let's enjoy some tunes, let's
Yeah,
kinda hang back, just kinda still in my mind thinking about the whole COVID thing and just all
sure.
that stuff that was still kinda going through my mind. I remember having a conversation with this dude that I met there, and we were just kinda sitting up on a wall at one point, and he was just like, "Man, I'm so freaking nervous," just because of how many people were there.
Right.
But
I can
so in my
relate.
mind, it wasn't it wasn't really something that I had decided I'm going to do this,
Yeah.
and it was, oh god, what was it? I believe it was Fit for a King. Is that when that giant circle pit happened, running, like, that went around the sound tent? It was
I
the
can't
afternoon of
remember. I'm not I know
day 1.
Terror, I wanna say Terror had one of those, maybe Fit for King,
Mhm.
I'm not there might have been a couple, but yeah.
Yeah.
But I believe you.
But it was one of those at the big stage where I was like, I'm in this, like, I'm here, let's
Let's
go for it, like,
run. Yeah,
and then from there, it was just kind of off to the races, and it was
right.
just, getting in the middle of the craziness for the rest of the weekend, but, it was
That's
so much fun,
amazing.
man. I was so appreciative to be able to just be a kid for a few days, and you know what I mean? It was just so
Yeah.
much fun, so
Yeah, and I think you nailed it. I think that's what we tried to do, and what even the baseball cards were kind of representative of that. Like, we're going back to what to like life as kids, and even though all of us know that we can't stay there, and it probably would be extremely unhealthy, and we could bring on a therapist to talk about how unhealthy it is to stay,
Yeah,
stay like in a childlike posture forever, although spiritually that's a whole different story. But
true.
I think that it was maybe it like gave us all permission to be present with each other again, where we all kind of knew the risks, and we all knew that there was the possibility for COVID to be something we took home, and I think that that was something that every single one of us had to think through. And even though we were likely either vaccinated or had received a negative test or something, there's
Hmm.
still back, especially during that season. I mean, the Delta variant was in everywhere in the news, and was all over the place in that sense. And so there was kind of a for me there was a significant moment the first morning, which is I was just feeling really burdened and overwhelmed by how many. The first morning felt really, really chaotic to me, in just from like a production standpoint, like a back office. Everyone's trying to figure out their roles, their positions, who to communicate, how best to communicate. We're all just trying. None of us have done this together ever, and I haven't done this for 17, 16, or 17 years. So it's like just trying to figure it all out. But thankfully it all like a bike. It's like, oh, I haven't ridden a bike in 16 years, but it's coming back to me. I
Mm,
think you do this, and you press the brakes like this. Um, and I just felt I had this thought. I don't know if it was God or if it was just like me, being using common sense, but I had a very clear thought, which was that you need to leave the production area and you just need to go hang out with people and like get away
wow.
from all this, because I think I realized I wasn't really contributing anything good anyway, and everyone else I was just meddling in everyone else's affairs and not actually helping. And so I just, okay, I'm going to take a stack of the super rare baseball cards, and I'm just going to walk around and pass them out to people, and just be at, like be one with the audience, so to speak. And I had the thought immediately after that, which was like, should I wear a mask or not? Like how I was like, I want to respect I was like, I'm not that concerned about it personally, but I want to be respectful. And then I just thought, you know what? I just don't. I don't know. I don't think I'm supposed to wear a mask. And I feel like even though I want to be honoring to people, I feel like I don't know. I just felt like a clarity that I shouldn't be wearing a mask, and so I didn't. And I didn't. I don't know if maybe I did. All right, I take it back. There was one artist one day they were on tour, and it was a very big deal that everyone backstage wore masks. And so we were that day. It was kind of like, yo, like do this whole like
Yeah, yeah.
like, oh, yeah, here they come. Like, hey, what's up, dude? How's it going?
Yeah, man.
Okay, did they leave? All right, they left. Like, take your, but no, it was cute. But it was at that moment where I just realized that everybody here is having the time of their lives, and they're so excited to be together and to be present and to be here, that all the kind of like backstage production mess that I was hearing in my ears or seeing in my hand, or
Mm,
whatever, was really not at all the experience of the festival attendee, who is really, if you're a festival promoter there, I mean, there doesn't really, in my opinion, there's not a higher priority than how does the person who paid a lot of money and has taken a lot of time and put forth serious effort to be there, how are they feeling? Because if they're
right.
good, then it's like we can sort out everything else. But if they're not good, then it's like then we have a whole, then we do have a real problem, and everything else is likely not to be sorted. So anyway, very
Mm.
long-winded answer for a question I don't think you even asked, but conversation, yeah, conversation happens. But it was fun,
Yeah,
and I loved it,
conversation
and
happens.
yeah.
Yeah, somebody posted in the comments that they were one of the people that came away with COVID as a Furnace Fest souvenir. I was gonna say, I
No
almost
way.
feel
Oh,
like
I
that
do.
should
Oh,
be.
Nick got no way. Nick, you got
Yeah, Nick.
COVID from
I
it
feel
was
like that
probably
should almost
from
be a
from me,
T-shirt,
dude.
like I
Sorry.
got COVID at Furnace
Yeah,
Fest
yeah.
2021 or something
Right.
like that. But
I should have worn a mask, Nick. Sorry, it was probably from me. But no,
you
that
gotta
there
be.
there was a time where a guy was talking to me, and he's a pretty large dude, and and I'm pretty sure without meaning, of course, without meaning to, he was so excited. I can remember like him just like his expression, his verbal expression being so strong that I like sensed like little dots of like his saliva hitting my cheek.
Uh-huh.
And immediately I was like, no, this is so not kosher, like so not. And then, but then I was just like, dude, man, I'm at Furnace Fest, worst thing that's going to happen is I get, but Nick, I'm glad you survived. And I'm glad that you made it to tell the story. What a
Yeah,
champion.
absolutely.
I wonder how many people did. That was something that at first going into it, we were actually pretty concerned, like what if a lot of people what if there's like an
Yeah.
outbreak? And they were like,
Yeah.
well, it worked for, it went fine for Lollapalooza, so it's got to go fine for us. But we did hear of a few people that got COVID, but thankfully did not hear of anything that was wilder than
Yeah.
Furnace Fest itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Um, Chad, at what point did you know that we got to do this again? Because I know when Furnace Fest was first, when the whole thing was first put together and revived, it was supposed to be a one-time thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
At what point did you know that? So, at what point did that click in your mind where you're like, all right, we got to, this just has to keep going. We've got to bring it back next year too.
Well, I was of the four of us promoters, I was the most skeptical because one, I felt like we had very clearly kind of advertised Furnace Fest as a one-off resurrection, and the language we had used was very specific, and so I
Hmm.
felt a little bit like it could potentially come across as a bait and switch if we were like, "Hey, we're only doing this one time," but then secretly we all kind of know, like, well, the financially savvy move would be to do this till the end of time, like
Yeah,
this,
sure.
we should change one-time resurrection to like multi-year resurrection, or like forever and ever amen resurrection, or
Yeah,
something.
in
But
perpetuity throughout
right,
the
yeah,
universe.
in
Yeah,
perpetuity resurrection.
yeah.
So I felt very concerned that we were potentially that would potentially come across as like a negative. And then two, I just felt like until we were there and until we'd experienced it, like we had all agreed before the festival, like everyone else was kind of putting they're kind of putting, not, I wouldn't say pressure, but just like they were being very transparent about how they felt and how much they desired to do this again. And I was the one that was
Right.
like, man, I just don't know. I think and so I finally said, let's see how it goes. We had all, I kind of feel like I need to call myself out, to be completely honest, dude. Now that I'm thinking back on it, I think we had actually said, let's do it again. And then either I had verbally said, or I had at least had the thought that, like, let's wait and see how it goes. Like, we definitely
Hmm.
didn't want to say anything until we knew, but we knew in it, we knew by the way tickets were moving, and by just like the extremely apparent, near constant like applause pre-festival, where like we would, even though we were like, hey, sorry, Poison the Well's not going to be here, but here's
Right.
here's Glassjaw. Sorry, like Light the Torch isn't going to be here, here's As Cities Burn. It was like, even though we were kind of dealing with some really challenging situations, for the most part the response was, you guys are making this happen. This is incredible. Like, just keep going. And so I was like, man,
Yeah, man.
like, if this goes well, we have to try to do this again. And but I think taking it one step further, the hardest part for me has been like, how do we as not just as a festival, but as a community now, how do we take that experience and elevate it, like, hey, that
Hmm.
was pretty much the best
Yeah.
experience for me, from a music festival experience. I've never experienced anything better than last year. So how do I do that again? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's where the stress comes in. It's like, oh man, I guess maybe the difference is that this time around, there are more music events. We're not near, like, I just
Mhm.
went to a show last week and it was a small club, and I didn't think twice over the fact that there were 150 of us all screaming, and sweating on each other, in a
Uh-huh.
space that definitely was not COVID friendly. And so I think that there is something about maybe like, that was what we experienced after a pandemic. Like, what might this
Right.
year be now that we've all
Right.
sort of just had some breathing room?
Yeah. Well, couple of things there. So first of all, I don't think anybody would hold it against you that it was advertised as a one-time resurrection, that
That's good.
then you saw how amazing it was and the response of the people, and then pivoted to something like I'm pretty sure the nostalgia of the moment, as incredible as it was, is far eclipsed by the desire of people to see it keep going. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
the 99.9% of people, even though like for me, like I'm somebody who gets pretty caught up in nostalgia, and I was like excited that, oh man, this is a one-time thing, this is incredible, but I'm still like, even from that mindset, I'm super pumped that you're keeping it going. I don't think there's anybody that, was there that had an amazing time, epic experience, that they would hold that against you. And the other thing is some unsolicited advice, because I know you didn't ask for this, but here's
I'll
my
take it
thought
though. I'll
as you're
take it though.
talking.
Yep.
As you're talking, here's my here's my thought. Um, I don't think you need to live under that added pressure of, we've got to do something so amazing this year because last year was so good and it has to be better.
Yeah.
I think that if you have the mindset of, you know what, last year was something that was incredible, and we're not going to relive the same hype. We're not going to relive the same moment because there was such a cultural moment, even with some of the societal stuff that had gone on over the past, 12 to 18 months leading up to Furnace Fest and all of that, with just so much of the division of our country, the just everything, we all know the major issues that went
Yeah.
on. And it's like there was just something so important, I think, about the coming together of Furnace Fest for this community specifically, that was so good. I just even think, for on the level of people's mental health and stuff like that, that had that outlet to just kind of break free and to, again, be kids and to have fun and be connected to that community. And we see that in the fact that the Furnace Fest community has even grown since then and stayed connected, and
Absolutely.
all of that,
Yeah.
right? But and so, my just thinking is, and again, I yeah, do with this what you want, but my thinking is, as awesome as last year was, I don't think you even necessarily need to worry about living up to last year, because
Mm.
last year was its own thing, and this year, and going forward, it could even just be something different. And the
Mm.
fact is that you guys have already, in my opinion, over delivered in such a tremendous way. Like I think I even mentioned this to you when we were having our phone conversation, and I was like, all of the bands that were in my mind, that I was like, you know what, Furnace Fest, this lineup, I'm talking about last year's Furnace Fest, this
Yeah.
lineup is so incredible. But there were a handful of bands in my mind that I was like, the only thing that can make this better is if this band was here. If this band was here. And like every single one of those bands are here this year. And
Mm.
this lineup is so stacked, and you guys added the additional stage, and it's just an incredible thing. I believe that you have stepped it up, but I don't think that it's necessarily possible to recreate the
Yeah,
nostalgia of
that's true.
last year. But I
Yep.
also don't think that it's necessary, because what you're doing is, I think it's beyond that, and I think that it's, just, again, I think that it's, from my perspective, is it's an important thing that you're doing, and I wouldn't. I know there's a lot of pressure associated with it because there's so many moving parts and pieces and people you're trying to make happy. But I think this is a community that knows how to, for the most part, roll with the punches. And I just think people are going to be so stoked this year to get there and hear some blast beats and just go crazy. And so, yeah, man, if that helps in any way
It
to
does.
undo some of the pressure,
No,
take it
it's
as you
huge.
will.
It's
But yeah.
yeah, man, I love it. I receive it and appreciate it so much because 'Cause you're right, it's not I think it would actually be an injustice to last year to try to replicate it, and that was one of the thoughts going into this year is like, we don't wanna just take the same like I was telling you yesterday, we don't wanna take the exact same recipe that worked even though it worked so well last year and just apply it to this year because there's so many artists that when I'm at Furnace Fest, when I'm on the ground at Sloss Furnace's National Historic Landmark, I just think, man, wouldn't it like how insane would this be if Thrice was here playing an old record, or how
Yeah,
crazy
man.
would it be, if Mastodon was out here late at night, or how wild would it be if Pedro the Lion was playing a certain album that I can't mention right now? That'd be sick, you know?
All right, all right.
Or,
That wasn't a cryptic
yeah.
or anything. All right. All right, hold tight, everybody. I think we had a little bit of a disconnection, but we're coming back.
Oh, nice. There
All
it is.
right. Yeah.
Boom, back. Internet, you can't stop this. The but no, man, it's really I do feel like we basically had a challenge, which was, do we go bigger, or do we, or do we just try to like keep this what it was? And we all
Mhm,
agreed, like, man, we felt so much support from the community and from the family that it was like, we got to do this right. And if we're going to do this again, we're going to do this at the level we believe the festival is deserving of, and not just the one that makes us feel this is, I mean, if I'm being completely transparent, this is extremely uncomfortable and extremely risky business
mhm,
because you're like, okay, like we had one good year. That all right, that's great. So now let's just step it like way up from a
mhm.
from a from an artist, from a talent budget perspective. And I think that's one thing that is really interesting, that I'm not really at, unfortunately not really at liberty. Yeah, thanks, Jamie. I'm already in my room almost, so I'm already there. But I think it's one of those things that most people don't realize is there's yeah, there's like the crypto market and the festival world. Those might be the two riskiest businesses to be in, because until you build something, you have no idea how it's going to turn out, and you can't just say we're going to test the waters a little bit. Although I would argue that last year was the testing of the waters. But what's up, Nigel? Man, we even got Kiwis here. That's incredible.
Yeah, man.
The family showing up. Yeah, I just think that there's something about the concept that if you build it, they will come. And so for me, I just have to surrender pretty regularly to God the fear that I have, that what if, like, God, what if I took on this monstrous risk and put together the biggest festival event, the biggest thing I've ever been a part of, and people decide, yeah, this is yeah, it's not that good, or maybe it's not quite what we wanted, or last year was exceptional, but this year we're doing something else. And so I think it's like me learning along the way to just keep surrendering stuff and giving stuff up.
Wow.
Like, well, I can't control anything. And one thing as a festival we've tried to do and hope that we'll never do is what we've seen Apple never do. Apple has never, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, Apple has never discounted the price of a computer or an iPhone apart from educational discounts. That's the only way you get a cheaper Apple product, is if you're in the educational world.
Uh-huh.
Which is an idea we should consider. Like, oh man, it's kind of a crazy thought now that I'm saying it, but there's something where I think we've had to say we believe that the value that we're producing is worth what we're requesting for it, versus like, not there's a level of, I guess what I'm saying is there's a level of confidence in what we're all building here, that is what gave us that, like, that push, like, yeah,
Yes.
let's do this again, because that confidence is here, even though it's the riskiest and most colossal business move any of the
Mm.
four of us have ever made. But that's how convinced and committed we felt the team was, the entire Furnace Fest family team. Um, and so I guess the to answer to land on an answer, the reason I was able to say yes, I'm in for another year, was because I watched how people responded when I handed them a baseball card with Elliot on it, or I watched how they interacted with the art. I mean, I remember watching Adam from Taking Back Sunday walking through the like merch area with no security, no
Right.
like entourage, nobody around him, just walking himself, and nobody harassing him. No one like, yo, dude, sign this, sign this. Hey, can I take a picture with you?
Yeah.
Just the dude just walking. And that's when and same thing with Anthony Green, with a bunch of people, just like like they were normal members of our family that we love and appreciate and value. And of course they're among us. Why wouldn't they be? And of course we're
Yeah.
not harassing them. Why would we? Like I was like, this is insane. Like, where does this doesn't happen anywhere?
No, it
Uh,
doesn't. It doesn't. It's special, man. It's
did
a
you see
special kind
anybody
of
walking
community.
around in the crowd that you were surprised to see, any artist heroes that you were like, wow, that guy just walked past me?
A couple people. I remember
Because
I
now I'm
remember
putting this
vividly.
idea to the test. Maybe I'm just making stuff up on the fly, which is
Yeah.
possible.
No,
Derek
man, it's
Tenbush.
it's
Hi, Elena.
it's definitely legit. I remember, and forgive me, his name's escaped me right now, but
That's okay.
the
That's
the front
welcome to
man
my world.
for Shy Khalud, I remember,
Oh, Jay.
seeing
Was
him
it Jay? Is
just
it Jay
chilling.
Pepito? I think
Mhm.
was
Yeah,
Jay. Yeah,
just
Jay.
seeing him, chilling in the merch area. I was able to go up and like, Joe Mustin from Beloved and I have gotten, somewhat tight. He's been on the podcast a couple of times, and we've been, in communication and stuff like that over the past
Yeah.
year. Not quite, yeah, maybe, yeah, not quite a year. But so that was cool to kind of like see the dudes from Beloved and get a chance to meet them, because they're like my favorite band, period. And
Wow.
one of the biggest, reasons, or one of the most, theirs was the set that I was most anticipating and most excited about overall,
Mm.
because like I had tickets to go see their last show ever back in January of '05, and I was in Bible college at the time, and it was like our week of prayer. It was the first week we were back of the spring semester,
Yep.
and it was about at least a 12-14 hour drive, something like that, for me to go to their show. And I was like, I was supposed to do it, and then I don't know if I felt convicted or what it was at the last minute. I was like, I can't leave during this week of prayer where I'm supposed to be kind of like setting my agenda for the year and allowing the Holy Spirit to work on my heart and all this kind of stuff. And so at the last minute, I decided not to go, and I've always regretted it. And anyway, so it was that I was so anticipating their set. And let me just say, Chad, too, and this is going to lead into another question. I was my legit favorite moment of Furnace Fest, and I've got a handful of favorite moments, but I think my number one favorite moment was, and I'm not just saying this because you're on the podcast. I've actually talked about this, on other podcasts and for a while. But the moment at the beginning of Beloved's set, when you came out and said what you said, and you just kind of shared your heart, and said basically, look, whatever you believe, your skin color, your sexual orientation, whoever you are, you have a place here, you
Mm.
know and when you shared your heart, I tangibly felt a shift in the atmosphere, and it was such a beautiful thing, a beautiful moment. And it was already the moment that I was most anticipating, was like the start of their set. And it
Yeah.
was such an incredible just experience for me. And I so appreciated what you said, and the fact that you shared your heart, you prayed over the crowd, and all that kind of stuff. It was just that was my number one moment. So, just
Mm.
wondering, do you have any like favorite moments or one of your favorite moments from Furnace Fest that really stuck out in your mind? Something that was
Yeah,
a
yeah. I
big
mean,
deal for you?
yeah. I mean, thanks. Thank you for sharing that, and it's super encouraging because I didn't go into. I mean, a lot of people know that I've been a avid follower of Jesus for many years. Although my journey, anyone who knows me closely knows that my journey is kind of like a man, what's like I guess a roller coaster might be the best way to put it. But I
Mhm.
think that that's true of anyone that says, I'm going to commit my life to a specific belief. And so in my case, I've always just felt like for Furnace Fest that the my calling, spiritually speaking, was to set a table and and
Mm.
to invite people to the table, and that everyone was welcome to kind of bring whatever they want to that table. And even if it was something that I didn't like, if it was like I've never liked casseroles. I've actually hated casseroles and meatloaf. Like those are two things that I despise. But if you love casserole and meatloaf, like dude, Furnace Fest is your place, and I'm gonna try casserole and meatloaf with you and just be like, dude, I'm gonna like tell me what you like about this because I've hated it and it's just never been like it kind of makes me sick, man. But that's be obviously super offensive to the person that loves casserole and meatloaf, but and not the band, but but then they'd be like, well, man, just loved like the delicacy of ketchup and mustard and spices going into this beef and putting the patty together and baking it, and I'd be like, wow, that's so cool to hear you say that, but I still completely disagree. But let me tell you why why like sweet potato gnocchi with caramelized butter and sage and I don't know something grilled chicken is
Sounds
way
amazing.
better. Yeah,
Mm.
it's lunchtime, but I guess just to like to maybe um cap that, the for me I don't ever, and I've never shown up to a Furnace Fest with like kind of like a spiritual intentionality other than to do what I hope to do naturally, which is just to be praying for people and to be asking God, who I believe loves everyone with an incredible deep seated life altering kind of love, sacrificial love, to meet people where they are and just to like just build them up, help them, like, touch down in their lives.
Mhm.
And so I'm like kind of behind the scenes praying that kind of stuff. And so that morning, the beloved morning, Saturday, I woke up and I just felt like this thought, like, hey, you should ask beloved if you can say something and maybe even pray before they're set. And I was like, oh man, that's kind of weird. And I don't want them to feel like, now I'm kind of like stepping in, like, hey, yo, guys, I need to, I started this thing 22 years
Yeah.
ago. I need to
Yeah.
have my time in the sun. Um, but I felt it strong enough to ask them, and so I took Dusty aside and said, "Hey, man, I had this weird thing. I woke up this morning and I just had this thought that maybe I should say a few words and maybe even pray a little prayer or something before you're set. But I really want that to be organic, and I don't want you guys to feel an ounce of pressure or like it's I'm not trying to like weasel my way in." And he was like, "Dude,
Sure.
no, dude, that's awesome. That'd be amazing." And so, oh, okay, but that was probably my most nervous moment because it wasn't planned, it wasn't rehearsed, it wasn't. It just yeah wasn't part of maybe what I saw coming, but I'm grateful for the fact that Furnace Fest is an opportunity to be a table, and especially in a season in an environment, politically and otherwise in our country, that where that is usually not the language. It's usually not the story, or the narrative. That man, we're just like, what if we all came together and brought what we love most in life and shared it with others? What would that look like? And so to answer your question after another long-winded, which Elena
No,
called
man, I
out,
love it.
unfortunately
Love
she
it.
she has gotten no extra spills beyond the Page of the Lion thing, but but we
Yeah, I
are
think
only
we
getting
shifted
started,
from that
Elena. So
conversation
we
a
got
little bit.
lots
Yeah.
of time.
Yeah.
My
We'll try to
favorite
steer it
moment
back to
was
some spoilers. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. My favorite moment was standing on stage with my whole family over showbread, or not over showbread,
Mm.
but during showbread, because
Yeah.
I've been through, and what I've not very publicly or often shared is that I went through a very, very difficult season several years ago where it was in my heart, and my desire was to leave my wife and my kids. And that's the short of it. And so
Wow.
thankfully, by the grace of God and through a whole lot of therapy and a whole lot of group sessions and a whole lot of work, I have found myself rekindled in affection and love for Beth and for my kids, and
Mm,
realizing how low of a spot I had kind of like bottomed out in. And it was at the very moment, or not the very moment, but closely to that moment of me bottoming out, that God brought Furnace Fest back into my life, or the idea of it. And so to me, Furnace Fest represents redemption, and it represents a starting over and the possibility of a life kind of like made new and made whole again. And to me, that's why I'm still a Christian. It's why I still follow Jesus. This is why I love opportunities to talk about what he's done in my life, because it's like nothing. It's like I know how capable I am of absolutely destroying everything, especially the people I love most. And
mm,
so Showbread was they're a band that I have a lot of history with, and um, eh, they're a band that was just like them playing that set at Furnace Fest with my whole family like bobbing up and down, like backstage, was just that was like so beautiful. And so I don't know,
wow.
that was my yeah, like I'm with David. It was my favorite set. I did
Yeah.
ask Showbread. This is a little um, alpha on Showbread. I really did want Showbread back, but one of our goals this year was to include as many bands as possible who were not there last year. And
Hmm.
so I said, hey, if we had you guys back, what would you want to do? Like, is there something that you'd be excited about? And they said, man, maybe like playing some of this, like the same lineup, the No Sir lineup, but playing some of the other material from the Tooth and Nail days, the Tooth and Nail catalog. I was like, oh, that'd be so sick. And but then in the end, it just didn't happen. So,
Yeah.
so unfortunately, I don't have any Showbread surprises for Elena. I wish I did. That'd be great. But
Sorry,
yeah,
Elena.
sorry. Yeah,
Um,
but yeah,
Chad, thank you so much for sharing that just now.
yeah.
I really appreciate that. And there was definitely something so special about that showbread set. Um, you know, well, anyway, just on what you were just sharing, I love what you're saying there. I love your heart there, and it just points to the fact that like no matter how dark it gets in your life, no matter how deep in despair, depression, addiction, sickness, like whatever it may be, just the reality that there's always hope.
Yeah.
There's always hope, there's always a way out. And I so appreciate you for sharing that, just now. Liquid Death, man. Shout
Oh
out.
yeah, they are confirmed. They are confirmed as a sponsor again. So,
All right.
and they were very kind to send us some Liquid Death. So this family is very
Yes.
well covered. The new mango flavor is actually pretty delicious. I'm not a huge
Oh
fan
yeah.
of the other two, but maybe if they were like cocktails or something, but not kind of on their own.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Like
anyway.
water.
But
Yeah.
no, dude, thanks. You're right,
um
and that's yeah, it's
yeah.
exactly
Yeah,
true.
I wanted to say, because so just something that was going through my mind as you were talking there, just kind of talking about showbread and the history that you have with them. So I remember, um, I don't remember what year it was, but I remember going to a show in New Jersey back in the day,
Is that where
and
you're
it
from?
was I'm from New Jersey, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
and I went to this show at a church that is like the basement of a church, um, in New Jersey, and I went to see a band called The Chariot. So that's who I was going to see. They were
Wow.
the only band that I was like real familiar with, and
Yeah.
they were new at the time. So this was the Youngbloods tour,
Oh,
and
nice. So
so
that would have been
yeah,
let's see if I
yep,
if my memory serves me right. I
yep.
wonder if
Come on,
Derek
man.
Tenbush could tell us who was on the Youngbloods tour, because we would have been working
I
together at
remember
Tooth and
most of
Nail
them.
then. So that would have and an X Beer X is in the works, Derek. Um, I think it was the Chariot, He is Legend,
Yep.
Showbread, obviously.
Yep.
Was As Cities Burn on
As
that?
Cities Burn.
As Cities
Yep.
Burn, and that was it. Far Less, was that the
You
fifth
got it.
band?
You got it.
Nice,
You
man.
got
My
it.
memory is still here. That's crazy. What a
And
tour.
it
So
was
the
like,
the Chariot, He Is Legend, Showbread, As Cities Burn, Far Less.
could you
That'd be like a
imagine
perfect.
that?
That'd
Like
be a
that
great
lineup?
night yeah. That'd be a great night at Furnace Fest in the shed, closing things
Yeah,
out.
man. And it was like at the time I didn't know, like it was everything was pretty new and I just wasn't familiar with those bands other than the Chariot. They're the only
Yeah,
band that I had listened to their music beforehand. And it was such an incredible show. Even all the way back then, that set that Showbread put on was unreal. Like it blew my mind, their stage presence and how fun they were,
yeah.
and just they rocked that basement, man. It was so incredible. But the reason I bring that up is because I'm not sure about Far Less, but I know that those other four bands are bands that you had a very big hand in, as far as the recruitment acquisition process, as the AR for Tooth and Nail at the time, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so just kind of maybe shifting gears just a little bit here and talking a little bit about, yeah, so Josh, let's see, Josh put, yeah, it might have been 2004.
That does
Oh,
sound, yeah, that.
Young Guns. I said Young Bloods. Yeah, my fault. Young Guns.
Oh, was it Young
Um,
Guns? Oh, I believed you on. You had me on Young Bloods. That sounds a little cooler. Sounds a little heavier.
well, he just said, and there was a Young Guns 2 tour. So maybe there was both. I don't know. It was one of those. It was Young something,
Okay.
and it was like new bands that were on Solid State. Anyway,
Yeah.
but it was an incredible, just an awesome night.
Yeah,
But anyway,
that's what we get to listen to Derek. We were right, dude. Is Young Bloods. Derek's trying to get us to falsify information publicly that he can use against us. I see how it
yeah.
is.
Oh, sweet. Well, I'm glad to know. I'm glad to know that I was good there.
Yeah,
But
dude, you're
yeah,
good.
so anyway, I just I th- I was thinking about this and just the impact, the influence that you've had on this music scene. It's just been, it's just been really incredible. Is there anything that you remember, and it could be one of those bands that we just mentioned, or maybe one of the other even earlier bands like Underoath or 238 or somebody like that, or whoever just kind of comes to your mind. Is there any one of those bands that you had a big part in signing or recruiting, that that you can specifically remember, um, when you first heard them or you first saw them, and what it was on the inside of you that said, I've got to sign this band, or I've got to, get involved in this with this band or something like that? Is there, I don't know, I feel like that was a convoluted way of asking that question,
No, no, I get it.
but
I mean,
pick whichever band
it
you want. And
it
what
translated.
was it that, yeah, thank you. What was it that
Yeah.
kind of made you feel like, I gotta sign these people?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually been maybe one of the most obvious gifts that I believe God's given me, and my personality and kind of my way of viewing the world or viewing people or viewing opportunities is very much through the lens of seeing potential. And you actually mentioned that earlier. It's kind of, like, I think you said something like recognizing gold or calling out gold or something like that. And it's like
Hmm.
seeing maybe a little bit before um the masses that something is going to work, and something, and Furnace Fest is another example of that. But I feel like that's from a band perspective. Oh man, like, I guess anytime I've seen any of the bands that I was able to work with, there's like this, it's almost like there's like a trigger, but in a healthy and a proper way, that just kind of like fires off inside of me. And it's like, dude, I like, I get kind of like, like Matt Carter from Emory on his podcast. He said something like I was a schemer. He called me a schemer. And I was like, no one's ever called me a schemer, but that's possibly the most like accurate description that I've ever been given. I just start scheming. I'm like, how can I work? Like, I got to work with this band. How can I, and how can I make this happen? Like, what can I do to pull this off? Like, I like start chasing. It's like, oh, which is also probably why I've really struggled with addiction in my life, is because of that
Mm.
same, when it's a good thing, it's super healthy. When it's a bad thing, it's obviously the opposite. Um, but I'm really just saying all this to try to give myself time to think of the best story. I do think
Well,
Me Without You. Todd mentions it here. I do think it's.
yep.
I don't know if it's 100% the one, but I do think to honor Todd and just to like take advantage of what a great story that is. I mean, I liked the operation, and I was really privileged to work with them, and I thought they were a great band. But when I saw Me Without You, it was just like it's because it was a combination of, like, when I saw Underoath for the first time, it was in Birmingham and there were 7 people, one of whom was Johnny Grimes, one of the four festival promoters. And so two of the four of us promoting Furnace Fest saw, I think it was like the second or third Underoath show ever, and there were 5 other people in that venue alongside me and Johnny. And but I had that same thing. It was like if I could work with this group, that would be really cool because I think they're doing something. But it's like anyone, and Derek can definitely attest to this. Anyone who's ever spent any time with me will very quickly realize, like, how in the world is this dude able to do any of the things he does? Because it's not. I've never. I don't know. I guess I don't feel like I naturally have any of the skill sets or the abilities that you might think, like, classically, like, oh, someone was trained in classically in an instrument and therefore they're truly
Right.
gifted in their artistic expression with that instrument. And in my case, it's I studied psychology and dropped out of college early. And it's like I've pretty much failed. I failed in business with Takehold. I failed in business with the early Furnace Fest because they didn't really work financially. um, it was just, but then, now as we're talking, it's like we're not talking about failure. We're not talking about all the missteps or all the, like, crazy, like, man, that could have gone really badly or poorly for you. We're talking about how incredible all these things are. And so I still come back to, I always just circle back to the grounding and the foundation that has been what's kept me here, which is a lively personal connection to Jesus. And
Mm.
if anyone, anytime someone says, "Do what's the secret?" I would say the only thing that makes any sense logically to my mind is that God truly has the best sense of humor ever, and we don't ever give him credit for that, because that's my story. Like, I was the least likely person to do anything good in music, and yet somehow out of my life has kind of birthed and flowed all this weird, wacky, bizarre, somehow relatable artistic expression that I
Mm.
just can't blame on anyone else. And so I don't know. I guess I find myself blown away. Like, when I every day of the 3 days of Furnace Fest, and even the days before anyone showed up, I would just walk around and just catch myself thinking, like, how is this happening? Like, what's going on here? Like, this is absurd. There's a level of at Furnace Fest, there was a level of tangible sweetness that was just, like, in the air. Like, to me,
Yeah.
as a Christian, I would say it was the presence of God conveying love, hope, faith, confidence, rejuvenation, um, all kinds of aspects of connection with each other that I don't know that we even know most days are there, or we don't even
Mm.
recognize. And I was just, kind of walking around, like, in awe. Like,
Yeah.
these people are so incredible, and the fact that we're all here is just beyond me.
Wow. So, like, what do you think that it was that allowed you to kind of insert yourself into this music business? As you said, not really being a person who had a lot of, musical ability or gifting of your own, but that allowed you to be able to just kind of essentially, build a record label, build a career for yourself through this whole thing, and to become such an important figure in this industry, in this particular Christian heavy hardcore music scene. Is it just was it just passion? Was it just raw passion that you had, where you were just so into the music itself that you just did whatever it took to get yourself there? What do you think was kind of what were the wheels? What was going on inside of you that kind of led you to put yourself into that position to say, like, even all the way back at the beginning with the record store and with Takehold and that everything that you were doing there? What do you think was going on? Like, again, not being somebody, I'm pretty sure I'm saying this right. I'm pretty sure I heard you say this, not having musical talent and gifting of your
Yeah.
own. But is that what it was? Was it just passion, or was it, what do you think was going on there?
Yeah, I think yeah, that's a great question. One I'm not sure I've ever been asked. I guess if I try to like put myself back in that time and that place, I think it was maybe that I was both connecting to God and to others through music that wasn't considered conventional or wasn't considered the kind of like the cool, trendy, on the radio, whatever, in the kind of
Mm,
mainstream of life. And I think it was like that underground, like Hi Brian. When I was at festivals like Cornerstone, I just felt a level of liveliness, like someone said, or yeah, Brian said that he thought Furnace Fest was a magical experience. Well, Cornerstone was a magical
100%.
experience. And so I think it was like I was a part of community and a scene and a like a burgeoning kind of like bubbling over expression of people's beliefs, people's ideas, people's thoughts, people's hopes, people's dreams, and all that. It was like when you're with everybody else, even though there's only 5 or 6 other people watching under oath, it's still like, dude, we're here, and there's something about this that's so special and so vibrant that I think it was hard not to be inspired by that. It's hard not to be passionate, and just to feel like I was one of many members in that season of life that were all kind of like pursuing different avenues of creative outcroppings, if you could put it that way. And um, it just felt like there was so much happening, both on the Christian side of things, and then on the sort of regular, secular, mainstream, whatever you want to call it, just the other side of things. And then to watch for Furnace Fest to be one of those places that just kind of brought them both together. And I mean, it's like I went back and watched a video of Hot Water Music playing at my little absolutely horrific club in Birmingham, and they were just, the whole video, they're just joking, they're like messing around with everybody, like you could tell like they weren't concerned that I hadn't provided them with a professional sound system, that
Mm,
I wasn't a great promoter, that I mean that there were only 90 or 100 people in this little off the path, kind of like spot.
yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
that's like representative of what it back then. It just was like, man, we get to do this. We get to do it together. Um, I guess that, yeah, I think it was the togetherness aspect, which was why when I was able that first day of Furnace Fest to go just spend time with the crowd and just like go out and be together
Mhm.
with people is where I came alive, because that's where I'm most comfortable, is around people. And I think COVID and the pandemic sort of tried to steal that from me and from a lot of us. And uh, I think that Furnace Fest kind of gave us the opportunity to just ignore all the noise,
Yeah.
of of
Yeah.
of the
Yeah, it's a
other
big
noise,
deal. Yeah. No, it's such a
but
big deal. That's right on the money. I'm just looking at one of these comments from Todd that I think is really dope. He said, "I think looking at the raw, unfinished talent and seeing an end product is the most godly trait we can express in life. I think that that's a really, really cool comment. So like being able to see what other people don't see, to kind of being able to, whether we're talking about people, you know, like an individual person, to kind of see past the facade, to see past some of the flaws, to see past some of those things. I think that that is a very godly thing, right? To be able to kind of see beyond what maybe everybody else sees, to recognize that there is gold in this person, you know. and
Yeah.
and if you're talking about somebody who's on a rebellious streak, or who's lost in some kind of whatever, some issue of life, some mode of life, whatever it is, but to not judge them or treat them based on what that thing is. I think that that's what it means to truly honor somebody. It's
Mm,
to look beyond what everybody sees, and to see that person the way that God sees that person. To see
yeah.
that person based on, you know, this person might not be, you know, I might not agree with them. I might not agree with their lifestyle or everything that they're doing. They might be running their life into the ground as far as, you know, my perspective says. But from a Christian perspective, Jesus died for that person, you know,
Mhm.
whether they've chosen to accept it or not. And there's somebody that God loves so passionately with all of his heart. And so just on an interpersonal level, being able to see those kinds of things, and then that translates into what we're talking about with, you know, I think kind of being able to see the raw talent, as Todd said, and to see what other people can't see. In other words, to kind of see something that's there before it's possible, or as you said, before it becomes mainstream, or before the masses accept it. I think that that's what it takes to, you know, you've mentioned crypto. I think that's what it takes to be successful in
Yeah.
cryptocurrency, and it definitely has lent itself to you. You know, essentially having this entrepreneurial spirit around the music industry. And yeah, man, I think it's a beautiful thing, and I really do think that it captures the heart of God for people and for the things
Mm.
that we do in life, to be able to see beyond just what we kind of see in the natural, and to, you know, to go after the things that we're passionate about anyway. Did that make
Yeah,
sense?
and I think yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
think for me, one of the most exciting stories for Furnace Fest 2022 is that is the opportunity to kind of take that idea and then stretch it a little further and begin asking, you know, like where can we potentially reconcile? Who have we potentially misunderstood, or who have I potentially hurt, either intentionally or unintentionally? And how do I look to make right some wrongs? And so one of those, I was listening to a podcast right after last year's Furnace Fest, and I can't remember who was on it. I think it was Vadim from Poison the Well and some, I can't remember who all was on it, but there, it was cool. It was one of the very few podcasts that I saw it pop up on the Facebook group, and I was just sending emails. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to listen to and see like what these guys were saying. I think it was maybe one of the guys in Hopes Fall was there, but it was a really cool conversation to hear from an artist how they saw Furnace Fest, like how someone performing at Furnace Fest, how they viewed it. And I remember them telling the story about Most Precious Blood, and how somehow it had gotten conveyed back to me that they were burning Bibles on stage, that they were ripping up pages of the Bible on stage, or something like that.
Hmm.
And for all these years, that's however the story, or the kind of like the game of the phone, whatever the phone game is, however that worked, that was a story that got sent down my way.
Right.
And and I always respected the fact that they were willing, from at least what I thought, they were willing to represent their beliefs and how they felt about faith and about spirituality in a way that was very different than mine, but that was still, it was passionate, and it was they were convinced, they were. And so anyway, so I found out through that podcast that Most Precious Blood thought that they were banned from Furnace Fest, even though, as it would turn out, it was some of our God-free youth friends in Atlanta that were the ones that were tearing up the Bible and burning the Bible in the pit, and it was not something that had ever happened on stage. Either way, it
Mm,
doesn't really matter to me where it happened.
yeah.
I was never personally offended by that, and I feel like that's how we're called to live if we're actually gonna follow Jesus, is to live from a place of not being easily offended. But so for me, I've kind of been like, once I heard that, I was just like, dude, we gotta like make that right, like we have to make sure they know that they're welcome at the table, even if their convictions are the complete opposite of ours or of mine or of any of us. And it was so cool when it was like we reached out to our friend Hunter, like, yo, dude, do you still talk to Most Precious Blood? Can you see if, like, how do we get in touch with them? Like we want to make them an offer. And um, I don't know. I guess I just feel like it's one of the most um, beautiful aspects to the festival, is that we get to hopefully set some records straight and right some wrongs and
Mm,
fix some things that are broken, and look past some challenges. And but I think, yeah, like Derek pointed out in here, like the fact that we didn't have a single fight, at least that I'm aware of, in
right.
3 days of 10,000 people together every single day. I mean, every time I'd walk past the emergency people, the paramedics, and they're just like lounging. It's like they were on vacation.
Hmm.
And I one day I walked past and I asked them. I said, "Hey, do you guys have a like how busy have you been today?" And they were like, I mean, we've treated a couple people for, like, dehydration issues, or
Hmm.
like one guy, maybe had a concussion. I think someone did break their arm and then came back, went and got their arm taken care of, and then came right back to Furnace Fest like 2 hours later, which is kind of crazy. But anyway,
Yeah, it's hardcore.
um, yeah, it is. But I'm excited. I'm excited to watch Most Precious Blood and just know that there's a story there that's been that I think's been like corrected, or
Mm.
rewritten maybe. And I love that thought.
Love it, man. Yeah, and I think that that's kind of at least from an outsider's perspective, kind of like the aerial view or like a pulled back view of why events like Furnace Fest and other things like it, why these things are so important, and sort of fostering community around, where Christians and atheists and people who are, you know what I mean, like all kinds of
Yeah.
people from all kinds of walks of life, how we can come together and we can respect one another, we can honor one another. And it is really an amazing thing how music can serve as the sort of the central point of that, and just bringing people together. And I think that it's such a, again, I know I probably said this like over and over again already, forgive me, but I just think it's such a beautiful thing, um, just kind of what you stand for, and that desire and
Thanks.
that willingness to, in an unconventional way, just want to express what you believe, which is that Jesus is the answer, and that that you love the Lord, you have a relationship with Him, and you want to exalt the name of Jesus, but in sort of like maybe a little bit of an unconventional way, by, as you said, just kind of setting the table for people to feel loved, for people to feel needed, for people to feel accepted, for people to feel wanted, and and then just kind of see what happens from there.
Yeah.
But I just think that, when we look at, for example, like when we look at the life of Jesus, he wasn't scandalized because people had different opinions or different beliefs, or people had, sinful lifestyles, or, whatever it was. And he was just real and authentic with people. And, if I have to say, I think that what you're doing and the way that you express, um, who you are and the things that you do, the things that you build, the things that you're passionate in life, it really does come off in a truly authentic way. And I think that that's something that we just need more and more in the world today. And that's something that I just saw over and over again at Furnace Fest, was just the authenticity of people. As you said, like nobody fighting, nobody doing these things. I remember at one point being in a pit and like losing my glasses, and everybody around me just kind of like pushing back and giving me a chance to, find them and help me and stuff like that. Like it was just stuff like that over and over again,
Yeah.
where people looking out for each other, protecting each other, and you know what I mean. It's such a cool thing. So,
Yeah, dude,
yeah,
it's no,
man,
I agree, and that was a recurring story, and it's easy to brag on Furnace Fest and the community around it because it's not you don't have to exaggerate, you don't have to make something up, you don't have to justify someone's behavior. It's just I feel like it's like this is all maybe it's just because we've all or many of us sort of grew up in this scene together that it felt much more like a family reunion than it did a like some I don't know some kind of
100%. Yeah.
professionally executed music festival. It's just never been the idea, but yeah, man, we're still I'm excited. We still have a couple of surprises up our sleeves, and we're still I think it just to me the opportunity to see everybody again and like I have to keep pinching myself, like man, what world do I live in, like where I go through the chat in this stream and I see I see all these names of friends. Some of these friends I've known for so long. Some of them are new friends, and it's just um, it's remarkable. But yeah,
Mm.
very honored, very privileged, and excited to watch. How it all kind of works itself together again.
Well, cool, man. Well, thank you again for being here. For now, let's go ahead and wrap this up. And I'm not gonna ask you right now if you'll come back, because I
Nice.
because I do that sometimes, and it's an unfair thing because you can't really say no.
Nah, you
So
should do it. You
I
should just
I would
who cares about how people feel? Just ask. That's
I would
my
like to
thing.
have you back on,
Yeah,
but I'll
dude.
ask you when
I
we're
will
off
come back
air
and
if you're
talk
down for
anytime. How about that? I'll come back and talk anytime.
Uh,
I love it,
there's
dude.
some things that we didn't even touch that I'm
Yeah.
super interested
Yeah,
about,
we didn't get to
getting
dive into
into, and
crypto, but yeah, no, it's good. There's a lot of stuff that
yeah,
we can tackle next time. What's
yeah.
your
But
top?
I super
What's your
yeah, yeah, go
single?
ahead.
What's your biggest crypto holding? What's your highest conviction project or
My
coin
highest
or
conviction.
token? Yeah.
So,
What's the one that you're like, Chad, you don't have any of this? You're an idiot.
yeah, no, I okay. So, well, let me just mention this. You were you mentioned the Shiba thing. The
Yep.
thing I made the most money on last year was Shiba.
Dogecoin. Well,
Um,
nice. That makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got in not when that initial crazy pump happened, but I did get in when it was fairly low, and I still hold like I don't know, like 7 million of them or something.
Yeah.
Not a heck of a lot, but
Yep.
when I pulled out the majority of my holdings in Shiba, I was at like a 12x, I think, or
Wow.
at
That's
least a 10x,
ridiculous.
something like that.
Yeah.
So that was pretty nice. I I had some ups and downs last year. I actually
Yep.
ended up, so toward the end of the year, I sold a lot of my crypto, and I've
Good
just been
call.
kind of waiting for the right time to
Yeah.
hop back in the market, and I feel
Yep.
like there's maybe still some more room. I hope anyway for
Yep.
some downturns in the market and stuff like that. But I'm still holding some Polygon.
Nice.
I still hold a little bit of Shiba and a couple others, but I think
Okay.
that I've been a big fan. Like I've been a big fan of Cardano,
Mm-hmm.
and it always just it didn't really do anything. And I kept like I just kept holding it, just waiting, and it never
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
did anything. Even last year when a lot of stuff was pumping, ADA didn't really do a whole lot. But it's still one that I kind of I have some belief in long term. I really have a lot of belief in Polygon Matic long term,
Yeah. It's a
and
great
yeah,
project.
there's a few others, but yeah. What about you?
That's cool.
This is not
Luna.
financial advice, by the way. I think I'm
Yeah,
supposed to
yeah,
say that.
yeah.
That's not what
Now
you
we got
told
to
me
get
to do.
into all that. No, man, we that one time we were going to end, and then we did go to crypto after all. No,
Yeah.
Luna has become my largest holding, but it's kind of accidental because I stumbled when I got into all this like last April. After I tried day trading in the stock market, and I lost a whole bunch of money, and just realized that
Wow.
it was not for me. And I was so discouraged. And I was like, man, this is so, I thought it'd be easy. This is so hard. It's so easy to lose money. It's so hard to, to make it and to hold on to it. And got into the crypto market last March or April. So it was right after Bitcoin had hit like 60 something thousand and it was on its way back down. So I was literally buying while Bitcoin was going down. So I was like buying and then it'd go down cheaper. And I was like, oh no. And I'd be like, okay, I'd sell it and then buy it cheaper. And so thankfully I I was down about $20,000. I'd basically asked my wife if we could take our savings, our retirement fund, and put it into crypto because I was so convinced that it was
Wow.
a space worth being invested in. And she was like, "Well, you're crazy, but you've always been crazy, so this is
Mm,
not that unlike you." And so we did that, and then we almost. I mean, it's like we lost. We were down a lot, and it was like, oh man, and I thought about, I was like, should I sell? And then it's like, if I sell, then it's like, I have to admit that I lost a bunch of money in the stock market. I lost a bunch of money in crypto. And thankfully I just held on. I was like, and it, all of a sudden it started turning and I was like, this is crazy, you know? And so thankfully I held on to it, and I should have sold had I sold when you did last year, I would have been in great shape. But I guess I do trade a little bit, but I consider myself more of a investor in the same way that I like to invest in an artist or in Furnace Fest as a project. It's easier for me to wrap my head around a long-term commitment and like a true, like I want to be with this project as long as I can be, and not just. So anyway, I've now kind of see it differently, as a trading account is one thing and a longer term investment account's another.
yeah. Yeah.
But I have some Polygon too, and I did have I had some SHIB. I could have made a lot of money on SHIB, but I didn't sell it at the top. I thought it was going to keep going higher,
Mhm.
and then I
Yeah.
finally it started coming down. I was like, okay, now I'm selling it, but it's all good. It's all kind
Yeah.
of like a lesson you learn.
It got to the point for me last year, man, that I was like, I was too into it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to the
Oh yeah.
point where I'd be waking up at 2, 3 in the morning and like grabbing my phone to check where things were.
Yep.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm acting like, it just became more. It felt more like I was gambling
Consuming.
than like I was
Yeah.
investing,
Totally.
and it just kinda took over my mind a little bit, and I still, I mean, I haven't, like, gone away from it, but I have kinda slowed up a little bit on my approach
Good
because I
call.
think I was just getting a little bit too consumed by it,
Yeah.
for my own good, for my own just kinda mental sanity and health. But
No,
yeah,
that's cool. I'm glad you did
did
that.
you do anything with Doge last year?
I did. I actually Doge was my earliest purchase, and my it was my first purchase while I was still in the stock world. It was a year and a half ago. It would have been November of 2020. Um, I saw on Robinhood. I saw Bitcoin and
Yep.
Litecoin and Ethereum and maybe whatever the ETC, Ethereum Classic. I saw those and I was like, man, those are all so expensive. And then I saw Doge. And I was like, this one's so cheap. It's like 0.000. I'm like, I'm just going to put $500 into this one. So I
Wow.
put $500 in,
Good
and I
call, man.
sold it all or most of it on Super Bowl Tuesday or Sunday.
Mhm.
And so my 500 turned into 10,000. And then I realized that had I not sold it and had I waited
Yeah.
until it actually went to the top, it would have, my 500 would have become like a 100,000.
Yeah. Yeah, if you
but
had
but
waited till when
yeah,
Elon
if I had
went on,
sold it, you know, if
SNL,
I had timed it perfectly, you
it was
know,
like
but
65 cents or something crazy.
exactly. But you know, it's like you never this stuff. So when it comes to the kind of like the meme stuff, it is a lot like gambling, and you have to be super cautious. And so I just was like, man, I'm blown away that I was able to put $500 into something and come out with $10,000, and was able to start retirement little mini accounts for my kids.
Mm,
That was a fun thing. But those are
that's
both
awesome, man.
yeah, those are both in the red thanks to the stock market. And
Yeah.
thinking, oh, I'll just put Doge winnings into the stock market long term. But I heard someone say that, you know, you have to, if you're an investor, you have to be committed for at least 3 to 5 years before you're
Mhm.
like, I think I don't remember the statistic, but it's something like people that hold for 5 years, like it's super rare that people don't see a return
Right.
for 5 years or over. But yeah, it's fun, man. It's kind of, yeah, it's definitely become a passion project, and I've learned a lot. One of the things that one of the only correlations I guess I can see between crypto and Furnace Fest, I watch a daily crypto show on YouTube called Crypto Banter, and they always start, well, not they almost always start out saying like, "Welcome, welcome, welcome," and this guy's super passionate, and he's like, it just feels like he's trying to like wrap his arms around everyone. And I was like, damn, I was like, man, that kind of, it's like that's how I want
Yeah.
Furnace Fest to feel, like it's
Mhm.
like the way, like he's so welcoming. And it's like, I'm sure he's intentionally doing that because it's YouTube and all, but it always, I'm always reminded, it's like, oh yeah, dude, that's like Furnace Fest. That's how I want it to be. So
Yeah,
anyway, dude,
man.
thanks,
Love
Duke.
it.
Thank you for your time and for having me on. I'm more than happy to jump on again. And but nice, that's good. Brian says he's too old for crypto, but his kid has some. You just now you just have to ask your kid for advice, dude. That's the you're never too old, man. No way. If you're showing up at
Mm.
Furnace Fest, you're not too old. You're
Yeah,
just
come
right.
on. Yeah,
Just right.
that's a good metric right there.
Yeah, yeah,
If you're not
exactly.
too old for Furnace Fest, you're not, yeah, that's good. I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. You're not too old for
Uh,
crypto.
yeah. Well, awesome, awesome, awesome. Chad, super appreciate you, brother. Thank you
Yeah,
again.
you
Thank you for
too.
your
Thanks,
heart, for
everybody.
sharing your heart, and I can't wait to do it again for real.
Same. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Great talking.
Yeah, man. You too. Let me just say to everybody else that was on here, thank you guys so much for the comments. And I'm super bad at multitasking, so I know we didn't. There were some awesome comments here. We mentioned a few. I know that there were a ton of other good ones. So forgive me for not being able to call everything out, but I appreciate you guys. Appreciate everybody that was on here. Furnace Fest community. Shout out to you guys. You guys are amazing. And everybody else, super appreciate you. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. See you soon.
Yep.